Good morning. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. How is everyone doing today? I think you guys can hear me. I think the audio is clear. If not, I hope someone can mention it to me. Yeah, I think the audio is working fine. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to be talking all about ad placements today, specifically for sponsored product ads across Seller Central as well as AMS. And the question we are trying to answer is like, what is the best sponsored ad placement? Okay, so I think we have. All right. Okay, next slide. My name is Ritu, and I am your host today for today's webinar. It's going to be a short 30-minute webinar, and helping me on the back end is Tyler. And so together we are going to be running this webinar for you. Also, just a little bit of a background. We represent PPC Ninja, and if you don't know what PPC Ninja is, we offer Amazon PPC tools as well as Amazon PPC services, and you can find out more about us on our website, ppcninja.com. And the goal of today's webinar is basically to examine the effectiveness of sponsored product ad placements. And specifically, there are three that Amazon calls out on their help pages: the top of search, rest of search, and product pages. So I would like to, touch upon each of these just to clarify, because, just by the name of it, like, what is top of search? I think a lot of people are confused about top of search, and they think it's what originally was called the headline search ad. And also rest of search, some people think that it's, placements outside of Amazon, but that's not true. And so we're going to dive in to see what exactly these three placement types are, and then we're going to evaluate the effectiveness of ads that are placed in these three spots. Okay, so first of all, top of search, which I'm going to abbreviate as TOS. In Amazon's own terms, their own definition on their help pages, top of search is basically first page, which basically means that the top two ads that you see above the fold, that is top of search. It is not the headline search ad up across the banner. It's not that. It's just the first two ads that you see right below that banner. What this placement is known for is that it gives you more eyeballs, right? Most of the purchases happen above the fold, which means that if your product does not show up either on the first page top above the fold, top of search, or if it shows up, let's say on page 3 or page 4, then it's very hard for that product to get discovered. So this is the most coveted spot for placements. But because there's just two of these placements up at the top of the page, it's limited inventory, right? And everyone is vying for these two spots, and that just drives up cost per clicks. But there are other placements that can work as well. So all hope is not lost for most of us. Let's look at the other placements. So the other placements, the second one is rest of search. And this does not mean off of Amazon. It means very much within the Amazon ecosystem, the Amazon platform. But in their definition, rest of search means middle or at the bottom of search results. And all sponsored product ads in the second page of search results and beyond, which means this row here in the middle of the page, or anything on page 2 and beyond, that all that is called rest of search. So obviously this will give you, these placements give you fewer eyeballs because people rarely go to page 3 and beyond. I mean, first page is probably the best spot, but if you go to the next page and the following pages, the visibility drops off, right, dramatically. But you do have plenty of inventory. So for some products that, require a lot of searching around, for example, gifts for Father's Day or something, people don't always decide on the first page, top of search. They might say, oh, let me search some more, let me search some more. And they go to the following pages. They might discover something on page 3 even, so who knows? So there is, again, like I said, some hope for these other placements. And then the third placement in Amazon's definition is product pages. Product pages refer to sponsored product placements on the product detail page, which is basically your main listing page, right? Somewhere in the bottom of that page or the middle of the page. And all non-search placements such as add to cart page. So, maybe these placements or, this thing that I've highlighted in orange, these are the placements that, the product pages ads are shown up for. So I'm just going to show you a real example. So let's say if I type iPhone case here in my Amazon.com, and I just do a browser search, which is either Control F or Command F, depending on whether you're Windows or Mac, and just look for the word sponsored, okay? And then you will see, depending on the layout, depending on whether you're checking on a device or a desktop, you'll see different numbers here. So for example, on this page, there are 16 sponsored ad placements. The first one, of course, is the headline search ad. We're going to ignore that. The second 2 are the ones in these 2 top positions. And then if we keep going down, there's more here. So they're hidden. Amazon likes to kind of just slip these in with this really tiny sponsored disclaimer. So, and they look like native ads, right? So people can click on them anywhere. That's, well, kind of good for us because we're advertisers. And then if you keep hitting next, you'll see, the very bottom of the page, there's like this whole row of sponsored products. So anyway, so you get the idea. These are the different placements, and now we're going to, look at which ones are best for our purpose. Okay, so we conducted a study and we examined almost 1,000 campaigns. And what we wanted to achieve at the end of the study is to figure out whether, top of search, as everyone says, that's the best placement. Is it really the best placement, or is any other placement, better for us? And so we try to do this a little bit scientifically. We, first identified, okay, what are the different parameters for evaluating whether a placement is the best? Okay, so quote unquote. So we came up with a lot of different parameters. Like, of course, sales is an important one. Definitely. I mean, we do want to impact our bottom line. So sales is an important parameter for evaluating whether a spot is good for us or not. But then there are so many others. We shortlisted 5, and then we shortlisted some more. So the second one is conversion rate. Okay, at which ad placement do we get the best conversion rates? And what conversion rates do is that, because they boost your relevancy score, they ultimately come back and help you because, if your conversion rate is consistently high, then Amazon rewards you by giving you, ads for cheap. Like you can get those same placements for a cheaper rate, a cheaper cost per click. So you do want to always be working on your conversion rate. It also goes to show that there's like a good product to market fit, which basically means that your listing and your keywords are matched really nicely because you're putting up those keywords, bidding on them, and you're converting well. So that's what we want to evaluate with the second parameter. The third one is ACoS. Of course, now that's the obvious one that most people look at. They're like, oh, which one is the better ACoS to go for? Try to go for 20 or low. And of course, ACoS is important because it impacts your profitability. It gives you the margins that you need to keep, continuing your business. So these 3 are really important. But then we also look at cost per click. Some of these placements might be more expensive. Like even without going into the study, we can almost say with certainty that the top of search is going to be the most expensive, right? The other placements are probably going to be cheaper, which might be true by and large, but we wanted to do it more scientifically. We wanted to see exactly which placement gives us better results for cost per clicks. And so this, basically boils down to efficiency, like how efficient is your ad in terms of money spent. And then the final one is click-through rate, right? Now the click-through rate is how many clicks you got for how many impressions. So if you get tons and tons of impressions and very few clicks, that also goes and impacts your ad quality score. So Amazon is watching your ad and it's saying, okay, I'm showing this ad, people are not clicking, so it may not be relevant, so your click-through rate drops, and then it comes and impacts you. Although the contribution of the click-through rate is kind of debatable, it's lower than conversion rate for sure, but it is there, and no one really can say that for sure, because Amazon doesn't have any documentation that says what goes into their algorithm. So anyway, now this is a lot of parameters to deal with if we have to examine these 1,000 campaigns. So we kind of boiled this down to we shortlisted further. We said, okay, we're just going to look at sales, which impacts the bottom line, the conversion rate, and the ACoS. So our 3 parameters, once shortlisted, what do we do next? What we do next is we go to the advertising reports on Seller Central, and we go to sponsored products, and then under the report type, we download the placements report. Now, this is one of those, reports that most people don't pay attention to, because, you get most of your data from the search terms. And I don't think even targeting, most people don't even look at the targeting report. You should, guys. These are really important, and important reports give you a lot of good data. But anyway, today's discussion is around the placements. So placement report, if you can download this for the max period, which is 90 days, you will get something like this. And I'm just going to show you what it looks like in just a minute. So, it has tons and tons of data, but here are the main components of it. You have like all the campaigns, right? I've just changed the names, changed them into campaign numbers so that I can kind of camouflage the data. But you see your bidding strategy, right? Now these are bidding strategies that Amazon, recently started giving us more control over. Earlier, it used to be Bid Plus, if you're familiar with that, which was one way of bidding up. If you tell Amazon, okay, bid me up for a particular placement, which was top of search, and I'll give you extra money for that. That's just a simple way of stating what these are. But fixed bids are basically Amazon do nothing. This is my bid. Don't change it. Just show me at that bid. And then you have the placements column, which if you create a filter and look at all the different placements, there's even more that they're slowly adding to this report. So the first one is detail page on Amazon. Now, not much data. I mean, I don't see much data if I just select this one yet, but I'm sure they're doing some interesting stuff, and so we'll see how that goes. Then, of course, you have the first page, top of search, placement, the product pages, as we discussed. I'm going to skip remarketing, and then the rest of search. So I skipped remarketing because, that's a topic for another day, but remarketing is certain types of ads actually show your products off Amazon. So anything that goes off Amazon, and including, you won't believe it, including auto campaigns. A lot of the auto campaigns budget is kind of channeled to off Amazon placements, and we have proof of that. So anyway, so it's interesting to look at all these different placements, but then what you really want to do is to go over to the right and look at how much sales you got for that campaign at that particular placement, what was the cost per click, and then what was the ACoS. Now, this is a huge report, pretty messy. It's really hard to learn anything from it unless you create a pivot table, which requires some Excel skills. But once you do that, you can create a slicer and kind of go over, kind of separate out that same data and say, okay, let's look at first page top of search, see what the sales are, what the ACOS is, what the clicks were, what the conversion rate was, and what the CPCs were. And then you can always create like averages to see, okay, at this placement, what are my cost per clicks, or at this placement, what are my cost per clicks, etc. So all of that can be done with the placement report. And I really encourage you to download that and examine it. After looking at all those different campaigns, we came up with some learnings, and we have 3 learnings. And the first one of them is a no-brainer, which I guess you kind of expected, that top of search generates the most sales for most campaigns, but not all. Now, what I mean by that is this matrix here is my different placements, so top of search, rest of search, and product pages. And I have those 3 shortlisted parameters. I'm saying, I go over every single campaign to see was my sales the highest for the top of search placement, or was it highest for the rest of search or the product pages? So I do this for every single campaign to find out which placement works best for my sales parameter. And we were surprised because it wasn't always top of search. Sometimes the rest of search and sometimes product pages were winning the most sales for a particular campaign, which we found super interesting. So just to give you an example, I have shortlisted like just 2 SKUs. I have 4 campaigns running for these 2 SKUs, and I am seeing. So the way I've arranged this is I have my ACOS for top of search, I have my ACOS for product pages, I have my ACOS for rest of search. I'm trying to see some patterns like for this SKU, for this campaign, is my ACOS better at top of search or at the product pages placement or at rest of search? And so I draw a little pattern here with the sparklines in case you're interested in knowing the Excel version of that. Then I look at the conversion rate. I say, okay, for top of search for this campaign, was the top of search at giving me a better conversion, or the product pages, or the rest of search? And then again, I draw a pattern. And similarly, I do the same thing for sales. Which of the 3 placements give me the most sales? And what was interesting was that for this campaign right here, I see that I made the most sales in the product pages placement. And then I have another one of that, and it's almost double of top of search. So what does this tell me? It tells me that I should not assume that top of search is the best placement for every single type of product, because there might be some products and some campaigns that can perform better at other placements. And so you really need to go in and do this analysis yourself to find out if that's the case. And if that is, then there's some things that we can do with it. So anyway, that was the first learning. Then learning number 2 is that we found an inconsistent pattern across metrics. And what do I mean by that? I took 2 of my favorite SKUs, the garlic press and an apple slicer, and I just compared the 2, and I said, okay, for this garlic slicer, top of search is giving me the most sales. However, the product pages is giving me the best ACOS. And the rest of search is actually giving me the best conversion rate. So this is kind of surprising because, I would have thought, oh, okay, so if it's if it's giving me the best sales at top of search, then the ACOS should also be the best there, and the conversion rate should also be the best there. But no, that's not the case, because we have an inconsistent pattern across metrics, and we actually need to look at things, product by product, and preferably campaign by campaign. So I did the same thing with, by the way, my garlic press and my apple slicer, they are fictitious examples, but the data is real. So these are coming from real examples. So in this case, in the case of my apple slicer, the product pages did way better for the sales parameter. The rest of search did better for the ACOS parameter, and conversion rate was best in the rest of search as well. So, inconsistent pattern across metrics basically means that you have to go and analyze your placement report to find out what's going on. You cannot rely on just myth or just generic statements that TOS is the best. Okay, learning number 3 is that the placement performance is not related to the type of SKU. Now, why I'm saying that, this is an important learning is because, people tend to think that, okay, it's a certain type of SKU, that's why it does better at the top of search, whereas it's a different type of SKU might do better on a different placement like rest of search or product pages. But what we found is that it's not related to the SKU, but it's related to the campaign and the campaign type. So here's what I mean. I took 2 SKUs, and it's the same example I continue from a few slides ago. So SKU 1, I have 4 different campaigns running for the SKU. I have a manual, I have an auto campaign, I have an auto which is targeted to business B2B customers, and another one for SPC, which is my category targeting, which is a new type of manual targeting that Amazon brought out a couple months ago. And I look at the ACOS for these 3 for these 4 campaigns, and look at this. I'm seeing that ACOS for top of search is 5.7, product page is 10.47 and 6 points. So it's the same product, right? I would have thought, it's the same product, so it'll always do better at top of search. But that's not the case, because this auto campaign for that same product is giving me a 16% ACOS at top of search, but a better ACOS at product pages, right? So that's surprising, because it's not to do with the type of SKU. It is to do with the type of campaign. And it might be that, Amazon gives a little bit more preference to, let's say, product targeting ads or category targeting ads on subsequent pages, not the top of search. So here's another example. The SPP, which is our internal way of naming campaigns, is a sponsored product for ASIN targeting or product targeting. So when I'm targeting another product through this manual campaign, in this particular case, the ACOS at top of search was super high, but it was better on a product page. And then this one had an ACOS of 107% for rest of search, which is page or below the fold or beyond, but it had a great ACOS for the product pages. So, this basically shows that it's not to do with the SKU type, it is to do with that campaign itself and that campaign type. And so you really need to go in, like I said, and examine your placement report and, take a look at it. But, here's some actions that you can take, now that you know that there's a lot of differences from what we've understood has always been that, the top of search is the best placement. Here are some actions that you can take. So first of all, download and analyze your placement report. In some cases where you're noticing that your sales, let's say in this particular case, my sales for product pages was way higher than sales at top of search placement. I also look at, simultaneously look at the ACOS for this product and say, oh my goodness, ACOS at top of search is 41 and it's better at the product pages placement. Now this looks like a better placement. Why don't I bid this up and not bid this up? And we can do that now because, as Amazon has come up with this new type of bidding modifier, which can be found under your campaign settings view in Seller Central. And you can basically go down and add a bidding strategy, so you can increase your bids by up to 900%. Now 900% might be the extreme, like if you're really trying to launch something, you might want to take advantage of that, you're willing to spend. But for most people, like you could try with 50 or 100% as a test, and then slowly, increment or decrement after watching the data. So in this previous example, like for this SKU and for this manual campaign, I would just say, okay, product pages, I'm going to bid up. So I would probably put 50% in or 100% in product pages. And for top of search, I would just put, let's say 5% or 10%, and that way I have extra, ways of controlling where my ads show. And so I can take advantage of that. And hopefully this, the sales number increases and my ACoS also remains constant. And my conversion rate, is great as well. So you could either do this like one by one, which is just go in, for each campaign, go into the campaign settings and scroll down and look at, these two, fields and enter those values. Or you could use PPC Ninja, which has a convenient way of changing your product page and top of search bids right here. So this is, I'm going to show you a live version of it. So here's PPC Ninja. This is what it looks like. In the campaigns view, you can actually go to a campaign and just simply click on product pages or top of search and change the percentage right there and save it. And you can do that without having to open up individual campaigns. You can just do all of that here. You can also search for the campaign names and put them in, and then alter your bids. Okay, so those were, the two action points that, we wanted to go over. And the summary of today's discussion, first of all, top of search generates the most sales, but not always, because there might be some gems hidden in other placements that you want to go find. And there is hope for the rest of us, because top of search is super competitive. By the way, most across the board, like $1 seems to be the standard kind of cost per click, or at least it's probably that artificially, set base that Amazon wants people to bid on. So typically people tend to pay $1 for a click. But let's say you have just a $10 product that you're selling, right? If you expect like 10 clicks to make one sale, you're gone. Like you already finished your budget. If you had 10 clicks and $10 goes away, you can't make any money. So top of search could be super expensive, but then some of the other placements might be cheaper. So you might want to hunt for those, gold nuggets hiding there. The second summary point is that there's an inconsistent pattern across the metrics, and you can come up with your own metrics. We just shortlisted 3 today, but you can look at others like impressions or anything else like CTR, etc., and then investigate what that pattern is for each campaign. And then the third summary point is that the placement performance is not related to the type of SKU as far as we've seen so far, but it is more to do with the campaign and the campaign history. So, just go and tweak your bid modifiers carefully. Don't assume that just because this product converted at a certain placement at a certain value that it would convert the same way in different placements or in different campaigns that advertise that same product. Okay, so it's to do with the campaign, not the SKU. Yeah, hopefully that was valuable to you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat box. We have a few minutes, and we're trying to stick to this format of really short webinars because people are busy. All of us are. So if you have any questions, feel free to type at this point. But if not, if you're shy or for whatever reason, you can also send us questions at support@ppcninja.com. And thank you, Ronald. And again, you can check out more about us at ppcninja.com. We provide tools and microservices for Amazon sellers. Okay, so Ronald has a question. How about keyword selection for PPC? Okay, so I think what I'm understanding, your question to mean is that, your keyword selection is what you put within a campaign and within the ad group, right? So, of course, when you dive down to that, if you drill down to that level, you will be able to get more insights at the keyword level. And, this kind of control is more at the campaign level. And actually, we're looking at the whole account at this point, trying to figure out, okay, like which, placements are better. But the thing is that with the bid placement modifiers. You cannot control individual keyword bids, but you can control like the entire campaign's placement, right? So since we're talking about placements today, that's the only controls we have for bid placements is through the campaign itself. But you could also do a hacky thing, which is to include certain keywords that you would like to convert at a certain placement by including only those keywords in a campaign and move the others to different campaigns. So that's one way of kind of forcing, this kind of bid placement modifier onto keywords. I mean, some people even do single keyword campaigns. That's a thing. I hope that answers your question, Ronald. Yes, David asks, is this research something PPC Ninja offers as a microservice? Yes, absolutely. Some of our microservices are pretty defined, like we have PPC audits or we have campaign optimization, listing optimization, but we also have a build my own microservice. So definitely if this is something that you're interested in us taking on for you, we can definitely go in and examine your reports and give you an analysis based on pivot tables and whatever we can glean from your data. So the first webinar we did 2 weeks ago was about bids and budgets and target ACoS, and we hope to do these webinars pretty frequently. So if you have any ideas for anything that you would like us to cover, we'd be happy to do that. Any other questions? So David says, I get lost in pivot tables. We all do, David. It's not easy. But yes, they're really powerful. So, if we can help you with, creating these slicers and maybe give you these Excel sheets if you would like to, kind of use these templates from time to time, definitely. Yes, Ronald, we do record these and we would send, the recording to you after the webinar, and definitely we can send you the previous one as well. Okay. All right. I think time is up. It's just after 11, and thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this webinar, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.